Hi guys, it's Chantel with Wildberry Quilting, and today isn't going to be so much of a quilting day. Instead, we're getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm going to show you how to turn this massive pumpkin into pumpkin puree that we can use for pumpkin pies or pumpkin bread or pumpkin cookies or whatever you desire. So let's get started. Okay, so we've got our pumpkin all sliced up and ready to go into the oven. I'm going to put these face down on a baking sheet and I'm going to bake them at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for an hour and a half. You can do 2 hours if they are not soft yet, but the way that you'll check them is you'll just stick a fork and you right through the top, and it should offer no resistance. It'll go through soft, and that's how you know that they will be done all the way. Usually for us that is an hour and a half, but it can sometimes be 2 hours depending on your oven and maybe depending on your pumpkin. Okay guys, this is fresh out of the oven. You can see all the steam coming off of it. And I've already poked it through, but I'm just going to poke it through so you can see how easy that slides out. There's really very little resistance there. And it's like that on all of the pieces. Now this skin offers a little bit more resistance than a lot of the others that I've done, just because this is a much bigger and thicker pumpkin. And you might find that, but it still goes in very easily. And I'm going to let this cool for about an hour, and then it should be easy enough for me to handle then, and I'll show you how to scrape all of this out and you'll have your pumpkin puree fresh, not from a can. Be careful though when you pull this out. There is a lot of liquid in here depending on what kind of pumpkin you use. It will depend on how much liquid you have, but that will scald you, so be very careful with that. Okay guys, our pumpkin is nice and cool to the touch. Slightly warm, but definitely able to handle it. I actually transferred this to a separate piece of parchment paper and had dumped off all of the juice. And as you can see, it has more juice. This is actually due to the type of pumpkin that I am using. So this is how we're just going to separate the meat from the skin. It just very easily carves off of there. You might, if you push a little too hard, you might get a little bit of the skin in there, but you can very easily just pull out that chunk. Even if you end up with a tiny piece of skin like this, that's not that big of a deal. I do still try to pull them out if I see them, but it's not going to be noticeable if you miss one or two. As you can see, that just comes right out. No problems. And you may hear my kids in the background. It is fairly cold today here, so they are playing inside. Look at all of that beautiful pumpkin meat. Now, you can use this exactly the same as you would use pumpkin puree that you get from a can. It's just going to taste a whole lot better, and it's going to be a lot healthier because it's not been sitting in a can and it's got all of those fresh nutrients and vitamins in it. And sometimes it even helps if you'll rip off a piece like this so that you're not struggling with such a large piece or trying to maneuver such a large piece. It's not really a struggle, it's just kind of awkward. Now, this was a very large pumpkin that I used. You can use the smaller sugar pumpkins. I can usually get enough out of one of those small sugar pumpkins in order to make 2 pumpkin pies. But we sometimes like to pick out fun, unusual, novelty looking pumpkins. The sugar pumpkins don't have all of this liquid to them. You'll want to drain off that liquid with this just so that it doesn't interfere with the measurements in whatever recipe you're using it in. All of the different pumpkins have a little bit different flavor to them. It all still tastes like pumpkin, it's just slightly different. Some of it's a little bit more fruity and has little undertones of different things. Now this large pumpkin, I'll probably end up with enough from this to make lots and lots of pumpkin bread and pumpkin pies and pumpkin cookies. And I'll also have some left over to give my neighbors, both some pumpkin bread and some of the puree to make whatever they need to make for their Thanksgiving meals. And as you can see, just from these 3 chunks of this pumpkin, I've almost got this bowl completely filled up. And I still have another tray full of pumpkin that just came out of the oven and one more tray full to put in because this was just such a massive pumpkin. We are going to be eating on this for a while. And I like to fill up quart mason jars. Then I stick them in the freezer. You just have to leave enough room for it to expand, because as it gets colder, it will expand and your jar can crack if you didn't leave enough room. But if you don't fill it above the fill line written on the side of the mason jar, you'll be fine. So you can see I've got a lot of liquid that has come out once I was scooping this. So I'm just going to take this over to the sink and tilt it over and pour out my excess liquid. All right, so this is all ready to be used in a recipe, and I don't blend this. You certainly can if you want it to be a very smooth consistency, but it comes apart so easily that I don't find that necessary. So what we do is we will just scoop it right out the amount that we need, which is usually around 2 cups. And then as we are mixing our other ingredients, this is continuing to get mashed up. And you can see how quickly that really does incorporate into things. And this is great for, like I said, any recipe that takes pumpkin puree or a can of pumpkin. You just need to add your seasoning and spices and stuff. But other than that, it's ready to go. And for our kids, when they were just learning to take solid foods, if it happened to be around this time of year, I would actually cook up pumpkins for them, and I just sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon and some nutmeg or other spices on there. And when it came out, it would taste delicious. Allspice is a good one to add. Cinnamon and allspice. And they loved it. It was like the best baby food that you could possibly imagine. And of course, so good for them too. All right, guys. So this is all ready for whatever pumpkin treats we want to make with it now. And I'm going to try to get a couple more videos out. So keep an eye out for those, and I'm going to try to squeeze them into the time that I need to actually prep for real Thanksgiving too, not just videos. Thanks for joining me today, and please remember to hit like and subscribe. I'll see you again next time. Bye.